1994 would prove to be a pivotal year in the career of Lennox Lewis, one that tested his resolve like never before. Now an established WBC Heavyweight Champion, Lewis entered the year with his sights set on unifying the division and silencing any remaining doubters. But while it began as another step toward greatness, 1994 would deliver a shocking twist, a single fight that would change the entire course of his career and redefine the path to redemption for Britain's heavyweight king. Fight 25, May 6, 1994, Atlantic City, New Jersey. Lennox Lewis, WBC Heavyweight Title Defense number 3, versus Phil Jackson. Following his impressive stoppage victory over Frank Bruno, Lennox Lewis looked set to unify the heavyweight division. Talks were underway for a blockbuster showdown with Evander Holyfield, who had just reclaimed the WBA and IBF titles from Riddick Bowe. But when Holyfield chose to step away from the sport, Lewis turned his attention to his next challenger, Phil Jackson, a little-known contender with an eye-catching record of 30 wins and just 1 defeat. Despite the numbers, Jackson's resume was thin. His only notable test had come against Donovan "Razor" Riddick, who dominated and stopped him in 4 rounds back in 1992. Still, Jackson and his trainer Pat Burns insisted this time would be different, claiming improved preparation and focus would shock the world. But once the opening bell rang, Lewis made sure that prediction didn't last long. Within 30 seconds, Lewis landed a thunderous right hand that floored Jackson, immediately setting the tone. The British champion controlled the action from range, using his jab and power shots to systematically dismantle the overmatched challenger. Lewis scored another knockdown late in round 5 with a crisp straight right, and though Jackson bravely beat the count, he was in survival mode from that point onward. After 2 more rounds of one-sided punishment, Lewis closed the show in round 8, unleashing a vicious 4-punch combination that sent Jackson down for the 3rd time. Referee Arthur Mercante Sr. had seen enough, waving off the contest at 1:35 of the 8th round. It was another dominant performance for Lewis, who retained his WBC Heavyweight Championship for the 3rd time, and showcased the same frightening blend of patience, precision, and power that had carried him to the top of the division. But while 1994 started smoothly for the champion, few could have predicted the shocking twist that would soon follow, one that would send shockwaves through the heavyweight landscape and test Lennox Lewis like never before. Fight 26, September 24, 1994, Wembley Arena, London. Lennox Lewis, WBC Heavyweight Champion, versus Oliver McCall. After 3 successful but underwhelming defenses of his WBC heavyweight title, Lennox Lewis entered the autumn of 1994 on the verge of the biggest fight of his career. Negotiations were already complete for a record-breaking $31 million super fight with Riddick Bowe, a long-awaited clash between the 2 men who had met in the 1988 Olympic final. All that stood between Lewis and that career-defining showdown was a routine title defense against Oliver, the Atomic Bull, McCall. McCall, a former sparring partner for Mike Tyson, entered the bout with a modest 24-5 record and little fanfare. Most of his wins had come against journeymen, and his defeats included names like Orlin Norris, James "Buster" Douglas, and Tony Tucker. Yet, under Don King's guidance, McCall had strung together 5 consecutive wins to earn the WBC's number 1 contender slot and his first shot at a world title. Lewis, however, paid little attention to his challenger. Confident and focused on the looming Bowe fight, he viewed McCall as a formality, a stay-busy bout to tick the mandatory box before moving on to bigger things. The opening round was quiet, with Lewis cautiously trying to establish his jab and range, while McCall looked composed and patient. 2 of the 3 judges gave Lewis the round, but McCall's stillness disguised his readiness. Then came the 2nd round, and with it, one of the great shocks in heavyweight history. As Lewis stepped in behind his right hand, McCall unleashed a perfectly timed counter right that detonated on Lewis's chin. The champion crashed to the canvas, stunned and struggling to regain his footing. He beat the count, but his legs were gone. Referee Jose Guadalupe Garcia continued to count, but when Lewis stumbled forward into him, the fight was waved off. Oliver McCall was the new WBC Heavyweight Champion by 2nd round TKO. The Wembley crowd was stunned into silence. Lewis, dazed and protesting, claimed the stoppage was early, But many at ringside, including Boxing Monthly editor Glenn Leach, agreed with the referee's call, noting that Lewis had only truly regained his senses after the fight had already been stopped. The loss sent shockwaves through the division. Lewis's planned $31 million clash with Riddick Bowe was immediately scrapped, and McCall, now aligned with Don King, rejected Lewis's $10 million offer for a rematch, setting his sights instead on defending the title against other King-managed fighters, particularly Mike Tyson, who was soon to be released from prison. For Lennox Lewis, the defeat was devastating. In one night, he lost not just his title, but his aura of invincibility and the biggest payday of his career. But it also marked a turning point. The loss would drive him to rebuild under the tutelage of Emanuel Steward, leading to one of the most remarkable comebacks in heavyweight history. 1994 ended not with triumph, but with a lesson, and the forging of the steel that would later make Lennox Lewis one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time.